Hey YouTube, what's going on? It's Adam here with Retro Repairs, and time for another repair video. So, I ordered this package a little while ago, and I was pretty excited to get it. It's got something it's a game I've been looking to have my eye out for, but they're pretty expensive, so kind of made that a little prohibitive in actually purchasing it. But let's just double check what this says. Yeah, just a packing slip. So, I'm going to walk you through what I got here. So, first thing we've got two packages, as you can see. And Rockman X2. So this is the Japanese version of Mega Man. This came out for the Super Famicom, which is what they had in Japan instead of the Super Nintendo. It was the Super Famicom. So, decent game, just the Japanese version. And then the other one we got here. Mega Man X2. So this is the North American version. Now, as you can see, the shell itself's a little worn. Oh, and it's even cracked here. That's too bad. I never noticed that. The back of it's good, but the front's kind of colored, a little yellowed here, and that just happens from exposure to UV. So, just taking a quick look at this, I actually see burn marks on here and some solder blobs. So it looks like someone has attempted to open that. So this one I know is not working, the Mega Man X2. But the Rockman is supposedly fully working. So we're going to test these out. Well, we're going to test this out. And we're going to open this one up first, just to see what it is that we're looking at. Alright, so I got my Super Nintendo here. And I have modified the tabs in here so that it will accept a Super Famicom game. Just have to line it up. There we go. So, power on. And there we go. So we're getting Rockman X2. Just make sure it boots into the game. Looks like we're good. Obviously, the writing is Japanese, so if you don't know Japanese, that makes it a little tougher to play. Well, it's still playable. I mean, it's Mega Man, so being a platformer, it's definitely playable, but you do lose some of the... if you don't know Japanese, it makes it a little more difficult. You lose some of the words and the story behind it. So I think we're going to crack these open and let's see what it is that we're working with. Let's start with Mega Man X2. Okay, so somebody tried to patch up some traces here, I'm guessing, because that's a mess. There's a little bit of a burn on the front. Can't really tell what the issue there is. So let's try clean this up a bit. Just see if this board is going to be salvageable. The nice thing about the fact that they gave me Rockman and Mega Man in the same package is I think the boards are going to be the same. Let's just double check this. So, identical boards. Same board numbers at the top. Let's check this CIC chip. So, can we see that? Not really. 9441 is the number on here. 9447. So it's possible I may need to actually swap the CIC chips as well, but if I were going to try do a ROM swap, basically what we'd be doing is taking the mask ROM, moving it off the Mega Man cartridge and onto the Rockman cartridge. Then, in theory, it should just play as normal. But let's see if we can't clean this Mega Man cart up at all. Mainly, check out what's going on here with this kind of burned off area. try a few different techniques just to try and clean this up. Just going to start low impact with the eraser, see if any of this comes up. Not really. Oh, maybe a tiny bit. Okay, so those pins are gone. Now that I get a little better view, they're completely off here. We're seeing the fiberglass board has been burnt, and you're actually seeing the little fibers start to come through. So this board itself is not going to be salvageable. So what I think we're going to have to do is remove the mask ROM and transfer it onto the working board. So let's give that a go. Obviously, Mega Man X2 is going to be, it's a pretty valuable game as far as Super Nintendo games go. I think if you were to try and look and buy one online, they're probably about $100, give or take a bit. Rockman, about a $25 game. So significant variance in value here. So makes sense to try and salvage the good game if we can. So let's, I'm going to heat up my hot air gun, and we're going to start lifting some chips off. Okay, so what we're going to do is remove the ROM chips off the working Rockman cartridge, and we're going to replace them with the Mega Man chips. So I've already gone ahead and added some flux and some additional solder to these pins. I neglected to hit the record button, so you missed that, but I'll probably do that on the other one as well for you, just so you see the entire process here, for one of these anyways. So now, let's fire up the hot air, let it get up to temperature, and then gonna begin moving or taking this off. So I'm just gonna orient this so that I got a good angle to work with it. I think just like that is gonna work very nicely. All right, so using my hot air, I like to start just on the top, kind of heating up the whole area of the board. It's not overly hot right now. From this distance, I'm gonna say it's a few inches. It gets hot when you get up close. But this is just going to help to reduce localized heat shock, so stop the board from expanding, that type of thing. And then just going to go in and start working on these pins. All right. Okay, so that first chip is off. Now I'm going to do the same thing to this other one here. So we need to add some flux to it. I'm just going to come at it and reflow this solder first, get some fresh solder in there. Okay, so we've got the chips taken off here, and it came off pretty well. So now what we've got to do is just clean up the residual solder that's on here. So I'm going to use a soldering braid and just some alcohol, clean that up as best as we can. Okay, so the alcohol, that just helps to eliminate some of the leftover flux. I'm going to come at it with Q-tip just to kind of get in there a little bit better. Okay, good. And now the desoldering braid. So I'm going to use my chisel tip for this one. And all that we want to do, just going to lay the solder braid on top and gently, oops, let's cut that chunk off. So just going to put the solder braid on top and very gently just going to work my way across, not pushing hard, not applying a lot of pressure or anything, just slowly dragging my soldering iron across. There we go. And that's cleaned those pins up nicely. Perfect. And then going to do the same thing for that other chip. So do be aware of this capacitor right here at C4. You just don't want to catch that in the desoldering braid or hit that with your soldering iron, because then that's just another part you have to solder back into place. All right, so that looks pretty good, I think. Touch that up a bit. I would say that's good. So now, just going to use, once again, a Q-tip and some alcohol. Just clean those off one last time. Get them as nice as possible and ready for the new chips. Perfect. So now we can put that board off to the side and do the same thing to the Mega Man cartridge. So this is ready to take on the Mega Man ROM chips. All right, so gonna repeat that exact same process again. Gonna just speed the whole thing up so that you're not watching the same tedious work time and time again. So gonna remove these two chips once again, noting that the notch in this one is the same as what was on that Rockman cartridge. This one does not have a notch. It has that little circle at the bottom. And just want to take a quick peek. The chips are the same, it looks like. Oh no, N4 versus N2. So a slightly different number on this one. I assume slightly different. The text is, it's worn off here. SNES. So they are different chips, actually. That doesn't really matter because it's on the same board. They'll have the same pinout, just one was probably made for Japan, one was probably made for the North American market. So yeah, let's get right back at this. Okay, so I've got the chips off both of these boards, and now it's time to prepare the board for resoldering. So we're going to use, once again, the good board, the Rockman one. We're just going to get these pads ready to go and begin the process. So I'm going to start by just putting a little bit of solder on the corners here. And what that's going to do is just make it easier to line up the new ROM chip where we need it to be. So I'm going to add a little bit of flux. And just going to put a tiny bit of solder just in the corner here. Cool. So now the tricky part is getting these chips lined up properly. So I find it's just easier to use your hand because the tweezers, you don't have as much control, I find. Maybe better to not put the balls. There we go, I think. Okay. And yeah, the rest of those look good. So I'm going to do the other corner here. Just like so. Okay. And again, I didn't mention it earlier, but you do want to add a little bit of pressure down just so you make sure that these pins are against the board. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit more flux on. You'll note that I use a lot of flux. Really, you can't use too much flux. Just you want to make sure that you clean it off when you're done. Even if you use no clean flux, you still want to clean it off. So let's zoom in a bit. We're going to do some drag soldering here. So I'm going to use the chisel tip that I was using before to desolder. And with the flux here, I'm just going to touch the pin, introduce a little bit of new solder, and just slowly work my way from pin to pin. And you can drag the tip out. And the flux really helps to cut down on solder bridges. They may still happen, but they should be easily remedied. Okay, so that's one side, and let's do the same on this side. I'm going to add a little bit more flux on that one. It seems to have dried up. There we go. There we go. I don't know if the camera could pick that up, but you may have seen that there was a little bit of bridging, and I was able to work that out towards the end of the chip just by dragging it over with the iron, and that's kind of what flux helps to do. So I'm going to just go ahead and do that other chip right now before going in to clean any of it. So I'm going to try just doing two. Yeah, we'll do two. Well, four, I guess. Okay, that looks okay. Just straighten it up over on this side. That looks good. Okay, so I do want to see if, let's see how well we can zoom into here, just to see if you can get an idea of how that looks. So this is the chip sitting on those pads, so it's sitting nice and flat on the board. I might want to try and push this side down a little bit. No, that doesn't make a difference, just the shadow. And this side, so you'll see that it's nice on those pads. It's pretty centered, not 100% perfect, but that is definitely going to do the trick. So let's get you back up here on the mount and solder on the rest of these. Okay, so I think we're probably good. Let's do a quick little look. Well, you can't really see because of the glare, but we are getting some, those look to be like some good solder joints. So I think we should be all good. So let's clean this up more. So I'm gonna hit it up with just some isopropyl alcohol again. Another thing that I go through an awful lot of is that isopropyl alcohol. And let's just clean up the space here. Okay. So, hopefully that did the trick. So let's just test this, see how it goes. All right, so now that we've got those chips swapped over, we're ready to give this a test. So I'm going to throw it in the shell here, just test it out, see if it works. So as I hinted at before, I did swap these chips, but I didn't switch this one. And this, I believe, is the lockout chip, the CIC chip, and this is what will basically tell the console that this is a genuine Nintendo cartridge. It's their way of helping to prevent piracy at the time. So I haven't swapped that yet. Sometimes you need to, sometimes you don't. They did make a few different versions of this chip, so I want to try it first before unnecessarily swapping more chips. So let's throw it in the game, and then moment of truth. Got a red light, black screen, and there we go. Booting into the Capcom. So let's see what we have here. Okay, Capcom. And we've got the English version, so that's Mega Man X2 instead of Rockman. So using the Rockman board, but the Mega Man ROMs are able to revive this game. So I was pretty excited about being able to snag this one, as I don't usually find some more uncommon titles like Mega Man X2 on eBay that don't work. Unfortunately, it's not in the greatest physical condition, but I'm keeping this for me. I'm not selling it, so I mean, this helps improve my collection at a cheaper price. I think I paid, I want to say $60 for both of these. So while still a fair bit, 60 bucks basically for X2, I was able to make a video out of it and be able to get it for a little bit cheaper than I could have otherwise. But that's going to be about it for this. There we go, Mega Man X2. So appreciate everyone watching. Hopefully you learned something, a way to revive a cartridge using the cheaper Japanese version of the same cartridge. So thanks a lot again. Be sure to leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on this. Subscribe to the channel, get notifications next time I release new videos as well. And until next time, thanks a lot again for watching. We'll see you next video.